Let's take a few minutes now to start talking about how to convert them. Obviously an important part of the process. We're going to do this in two different phases. We're going to talk about how to sell the way that customers want to buy, and then we're going to talk about making sure that your staff, your team, has the proper knowledge and sales skills to execute this. So let's be honest for a few minutes and talk about the whole playing field that we're looking at right now. It's changed drastically. And here's the deal, if we don't change and if we don't evolve and if we don't adapt, we're gonna have a bunch of problems in front of us. We're gonna constantly be playing like these guys are uphill, and that's never, ever a good thing. We do have some challenges in front of us, and I'm sure all of you are aware of them in the industry. First of all, we know that customers' expectations have changed. I know that I've changed as a consumer, and I'm assuming all of you in this room have changed as well. We also find that customers aren't as brand loyal as they used to be. If they have even one bad experience with something they absolutely love, they leave the brand. Another challenge we have are the manufacturers. You know, for years, a lot of us have been in this industry for a while. We know that manufacturers have always relied on the quality and the performance of the vehicle. That's all they ever talked about. Well, here's the deal with technology. We find that all manufacturers out there now are pretty darn good. Everybody is making a pretty good car. So the new playing ground, if you want to play, the new battlefield is really that customer experience, to make sure we elevate that so people have a good experience buying that vehicle. We also know some of our heavy hitters, some of our best sellers, the people in our dealership are having trouble with their digital skill set. You know, it's a different world when you have to communicate to people through the internet, right? Proper emails or, you know, voice, obviously phone calls, but also this whole Zoom thing, this is out of their realm, right? And what's happening is they have this transition from being this digital customer, they walk in the door and they can't just rely on old tricks they used to have. And here's the last thing I want to say is a big challenge, is people have changed buying cars. You know, it used to be people would go to, 4 or 5 dealerships, they load the kids in the car, drive around, they gather a bunch of brochures. Y'all remember brochures, right? There were those things we used to have that had those pretty words like bold and aggressive and nice pretty pictures, right? And they'd sit around the dining room table and look through them and say, okay, I think I like this car. They don't do that anymore. They go to 1 or 2 dealerships and you really get one shot at them. So if you don't have your game together, if you don't know what you're doing, they leave and they don't come back. Look, let's be honest, the world has changed. You can buy a car through a vending machine right now. That's crazy, right? Think about that 10 years ago. And here's the deal, I like a lot of what Carvana is doing, but there's 2 things that Carvana can't do that we can do. You can't have an emotional engagement with a customer through Carvana, and you can't really provide information they don't already have. So here's the deal. People buy cars for 2 really strong reasons. Rational and emotional. Wait a second, I'm gonna take that back. Everybody buys a car for a rational reason. You gotta get to point A to point B, you gotta go to work, you gotta take the kids to school, go to the grocery store. But not everybody buys it for an emotional reason, and that's up to us. That person that buys a car that's from an emotional standpoint, they're passionate about their vehicle, right? They're fired up. They're saying, look at me, I have arrived. That's somebody that's bragging about you and bragging about your dealership, and of course bragging about their new car. So here's the deal. We have a few steps to overcome these challenges, and that's why we say sell in the way they want to buy. And I'm going to start this off by asking all of you a question, okay? And that's not just a rhetorical question. I want you to think about it. What do you think is the percentage of customers before they ever walk into a dealership that are using technology, before they ever walk in? Think about that for a second. I'm going to guess, right off the bat, most of you said at least 95% or higher, right? North of that. Some of you might have even said 100%, and I would have a tendency to agree with you. We know they're using technology, right? So the second question is this. Are you using technology once they walk in the door? Or are we just going back in the hot tub, time machine back to 1975 and say, hey, welcome. How are you? I'm Drew. ABC dealership, nice to meet you. And never incorporating technology, that's ridiculous. You know they use technology to get there, and all of a sudden we go, why would I use technology now? So we're not selling the way they want to buy, we're just selling like we have for years and years. And this is true for that transition when you have that person on the phone, or maybe you have a Zoom call with them. It's an easy transition if you're using technology, because that's the way they've already started researching the car. And this is a way to provide valuable information they don't even already have, which is important. The next thing up there is using video, lots and lots of video. Did I say lots? I'm gonna say lots again, lots and lots of video. Look, we're visual learners, everybody in this room. We're fired up when we see things, we get emotional attachments to things. And by the way, we can retain things 60,000 times more, right? If we have more retention, if we see a video rather than just read it in a script, because it taps our heart. It gets us excited about it. And here's the deal, we have to use this in all variants of our dealership. Of course, use it with the product. That gets them going, right? But how about the technologies, right? What about the technologies that are in the vehicle or even the technologies in your store? And how about a great way to introduce the people they're going to be working with? Don't you all feel better when you walk in somewhere and somebody you don't know and you actually feel like you almost have a relationship with them? Well, those videos can help us do that. And by the way, if you did not know, it is a video economy right now. They say that people that make a purchase, not cars, but just make a purchase, 74% go to YouTube. My question for you is this: do you want them going to YouTube to learn about you and your product, or do you want to create that content so they understand your culture, who you are, and what they're walking into the day they walk into that dealership? Think about that for a minute. Here's another thing we've got to talk about: building value. Jen and I have been training, as Jenna said earlier, for years and years, right? And we've done this a long time. This is the holy grail of what we do, right? You build value. People will spend more and be happier doing it and brag about you if you tell them what they're spending their money on. The only time you ever feel ripped off is when you spend a bunch of money and you don't know what you have for it, right? So you got to build value in the product. That's obvious. But here's something almost more important. Build value in yourself, right? We all want to buy from somebody smarter than we are, at least has more knowledge about what we're talking about, right? Let's get out of the car business for a second. A lot of you have probably been to an Apple store, and if you've never been to an Apple store, at least you know the experience, right? You walk in there, and there's a reason they call them Apple geniuses. I mean, these guys are ridiculous. They come in their little bright t-shirt, and they got their iPad under their arm, and what do? They ask you questions. And then they start to figure out what you need, and then they start to recommend different products that they have, and guess what? You become an Apple person like I am for life. And that's the same for Android and other products out there, because they helped you through the process, right? So you gotta build value in yourself. And here's another thing: you gotta focus on a frictionless experience. Nobody in this room, myself included, wants to be sold, right? We all want to have a good experience. Let me ask you something again. We'll get out of the car business. Let's say you go out to a really nice steak restaurant, okay? You're going to have a really good dinner. Can't wait for it. And you have the best meal you've ever had in your life. This is amazing. But the service, not good at all. Not good, right? Just not good service, right? Are you going back? Probably not. Another time you go out and you go to a pretty good restaurant and you have a pretty good meal, but you have the most amazing service in the world. Are you going back? In a heartbeat. That's your place. That's probably what you do right now back at home, right? Those are the places you go to. So here's the deal. It wasn't about the product, in this case, the food. It was about the experience they had while they were eating the food. Let's think about that in our business, right? Let's give them that experience, because the lowest price doesn't always win. You know that, and I know that. If you give them a better experience, they will spend more and be happier doing it. You know, they say that 74% of people out there that are consumers will drive further away from their house to have a better experience than staying close by. And I'm sure you have that in your lives. You might not go to the closest grocery store. You might go to the grocery store where you know people and they treat you well and you kind of like them. Okay, they have good produce, I get that. But maybe on top of that, they just have a connection with them and you'll drive a little bit further. Last thing on there is this: make it fast and easy. Please hear this. Make it fast and easy. Look, I'm not going to stand up here and tell you that buying a car is a 15-minute experience. That ain't ever going to happen. I know it and you know it. Just like buying a house, you can't just sign 2 pieces of paper, right? You're going to be signing until you have hand cramps, right? We know that. But here's the deal. At the beginning, we said they were using technology. So they were finding information quickly. They were getting that speed up. And all of a sudden, they come into your dealership and you hit a stop sign. All of a sudden, it becomes this laborious process where they're just not having a good time about it. So here's the thing. Think about the internet. You know, when Jen and I travel around training all over the country, I ask this all the time: how do you think the internet has changed our business? And we know what we hear the same thing over and over. Oh, it makes them know about the car better than I do. Know about the competition, or maybe they even know the invoice price. And I agree with all that, but here's what I think. The internet has made us lazy. Really lazy, right? We want information quickly. We get impatient, really impatient all the time. So what happens is, I mean, you guys remember dial-up? Some of you old enough in this room to remember dial-up? Remember how long it took to get information? Even now, if you have a bad Wi-Fi, you're over at the Marriott, across the street, you have bad Wi-Fi, you're like, come on. Or even your cell phone, sir, you're trying to click it, where's my service? People want information quickly, and we need to give it to them. People that are bored have a long process. If we keep them engaged through the process, share information, you know what they're not doing? They're not looking at other prices at other stores, they're not disengaged, and all of a sudden the process went quickly, and they're like, that wasn't too bad. You know, I'll leave you with this, and I'll get out of your way and pass things over to Jenna. There is a huge difference between customer service and a customer experience. Please hear that, okay? Customer service is expected. I walk into your dealership, I expect you to greet me with a warm handshake, maybe give me a bottle of water, have clean cars that I can go out and drive. That's all expected. But a customer experience, those are those tiny little things that make a difference that I did not expect. And here's the great news for everybody in this room and out there in the hall as well. Here it is. Customers' expectations when they walk in your dealership are really low, right? They're not walking in going, yes, I get to buy a car today. This is awesome. They're going, okay, here we go. I hope I'm taken care of. If we walk in there and they just do a few little things for them, we can raise that experience a little bit. These people right there are going to be loyal for life. And here's what they become. Not just customers, they become advocates. They're out there selling for you, and that's a good thing. But here's the deal. You can't do this if your staff doesn't have the proper knowledge and set skills to do this.